Good morning, everyone. I'm Justine Burdet, Vice President of Technical Services at The Right Place and Regional Director of the Michigan Manufacturing Technology Center. Thank you for joining us today. We apologize for the delayed start. We were having some technical difficulties. We're pleased to present this webinar on Industry 4.0, which is certainly a topic that we're hearing about from our manufacturing clients on a daily basis. We provide a variety of educational and consulting services related to Industry 4.0 through our offices in Grand Rapids and around the state. The center can guide your company with an opportunity assessment, which helps the manufacturer understand the suitability and effectiveness of the company's operational systems and where implementation or improved use of technology can assist you. With me today are Brian Edwards of MiBiz, Matt Tyler of Vickers Engineering, and Carolla of Vickers RedRabbit Automation subsidiary. We're excited to share the story of Vickers' journey into automation and Industry 4.0 and how it changed their company's culture and became a springboard for their growth. Matt and Corey recently gave a version of this presentation at Houstex, a manufacturing and automation show in Houston. They're very direct, honest, and practical in talking about the real-world challenges they encountered, mistakes made, and lessons learned. Hopefully, all of you on the webinar find it useful to hear about their experiences. Now, to get things rolling, I'm going to turn it over to my co-host, Brian Edwards, publisher of MiBiz. Brian?
Thank you, Justine. Good morning, everyone. Sorry for the delay. This is the fourth in a series of manufacturing webinars we're producing with the Center West. We have 2 more planned for later this year. One of the things we've learned is to keep the introductions brief and get into the content, so here's the agenda. Matt and Corey are going to share their presentation. We'll do some Q&A. We'll wrap it up. Before we get to the presentation, we're going to do a quick 1-question poll. Actually, we're not going to do that since we're running a little later on time, but we'll maybe do that towards the end. So let me just get right to Matt Tyler and Corey Carolla. Matt is the CEO of Vickers Engineering. They're a contract machining supplier to the automotive and oil and gas industries. He's going to talk about some of the hard lessons that Vickers learned when it first dipped its toe in the automation waters back in 2007, 2008. How it pivoted, grew, and built its automation expertise to become a critical supplier to the likes of Toyota, Honda, Subaru, and others. That expertise also led Vickers to launch RedRabbit Automation as a spin-off. RedRabbit manufactures and sells a self-contained automation cell, amongst other things, and it's kind of a modular approach to automation. So our other speaker today is Corey Carolla. He's the VP of Corporate Development for RedRabbit. It sounds like a sales job, but really Corey spends most of his time educating people about the reality of automation in the sector. He's a straight shooter, he's got a good sense of humor, and he's a good teacher. So Matt and Corey, welcome belatedly to the Industry 4.0 webinar, and let's get you rolling here.
No, thank you very much. My name is Matt Tyler, as Brian said, and Justine, you're exactly correct. We are straight shooters, and we're happy to share all of our successes, because God forbid if we shared all of our mistakes, we'd be here for a week. So, so I'm gonna try to cut through that stuff and get on our way. So in one of our goals is to create or try to gain credibility right off the bat in anything we do, because it's very, very difficult to prove credibility in our business quickly. It takes years sometimes, and so in the world of fake news, I wanted to throw this out there. This isn't fake news, according to the Wall Street Journal. So we've been very fortunate to have a lot of publicity on our business and how we've evolved over the years, and because we are open to share it, most of it has been around our adoption of automation and really what it did to our business. So again, here's some of the things that we've done. You know, blah, blah, blah. The march to credibility to us is huge because, again, in our business, we are primarily automotive, but we're also oil and gas. We're a little bit in defense. We're just like any other contract machining supplier out there that has evolved over time. But we're not just automotive. But we are to the point now that we are a tier 1 at Toyota and have been for 10 years. We're doing a lot of critical parts in other areas. So what I want to do is briefly just explain to everybody who we are so you can maybe relate it to your business, and then talk a little bit about how we got into automation and why, and really what it's done to our business. So the logo you see on our screen right now is back in 2000 when I got involved in Vickers. We were a very small job shop. We had about 35 guys, pretty raw, primarily prototyping and some low volume production opportunities, but we were hungry and we were good. We were very customer responsive. And so the first thing I did when I got there was to develop a brochure, and this is the brochure. So you can see, I wanted to highlight our incredible technology, which was,
and use Microsoft
and I was
Publisher.
proud as hell of this stuff. So yeah, and so give it another slide here. You're going to notice there is a person in front of every machine, because that is literally how we worked. It was a little scrappy. It wasn't clean. Arguably, probably not safe. I mean, I don't think there's any people from OSHA on the line. But this is how, you know, that's me up in the attic. Becky's our one and only computer person down in the office.
Shared email.
Shared email. This is who we were. And this was in 2000, 2001, and we were still a good company, but we started to get some cracks and opportunities that came from our performance. And but we were again in that traditional machine shop world where you needed somebody to touch every single part, everything, every single quality inspection, every single assembly. There was multiple people touching these components as they left the door. Now this is who we are today. So flash forward to 2019, we're a couple hundred employees, really about 190. We're in Southwest Michigan, and again, Tier 1. We make a variety of components. We're still arguably a job shop, but we're in the game, and we've got, you know, a 10-year backlog. And again, because automation got us into this game, relatively diverse, sort of. But we ship all over North America, a lot of regular names many people recognize, where logistics doesn't necessarily matter for the type of work we do, because we're competing globally. So our competition literally is in Japan and China and India and down the street and throughout the country. We're typically in this world, the logistics cost doesn't matter at this point, but labor certainly does, performance certainly does. And it matters. So again, just a few samples of things that we make: oil and gas, some industrial things, variety of volumes. Yes, we're in automotive. Yes, we make millions of components in certain commodities. Yes, we make the same parts every single day, but we also have different parts of the businesses that we don't, and they are significantly automated processes. Oil and gas are families of components. We've got other shared cells that produce. Sometimes we're running automated, sometimes we're running manually, depending on the situation. And now we're in the modular automation, which is Corey's going to touch on later. Our competitive advantage is absolutely automation. So back in 2016, we were exposed to an opportunity where it was kind of a safety issue, and it was such a heavy component, we needed to automate the part. We had to move an entire fixture from one cell to another, and we decided to put a robot in play, and we were scared to death. We knew nothing about robots. We didn't know how to maintain them. We didn't know how to program them. We thought our employee base was going to rebel. We were wrong on every single point, famously. It was cheaper than we thought. It was easier to maintain than we thought. It was more reliable than we thought. Our throughput went through the roof. We had 3 people in a cell for 3 shifts because somebody was going to quit. It was a 2-man job. We went from 3 people per shift, so 9 people a day, down to 1 person a shift. Our throughput increased about 20%. Our quality increased. And the biggest impact was people on the floor started to fight over who got to run the cell. It wasn't a rebellion situation. They embraced it more than we did. And then we thought we were kind of onto something. So at that point, we started to quote automation in other areas of the building, and we were winning work because of it, because our cost was different, our performance was going to be different. And then in about 2010, we got to the point where we recognized when we were quoting opportunities, why it used to be, why would I spend capital and automate this process? Justified to the executive team, or which was, you know, a couple of us, because we were still a small company. Why would we do that? In 2010, it flipped. It became a situation where justified to me why we wouldn't automate, because every single thing that we went through when it came to profitability, improving costs, improving quality, delivery, safety, the ability to add value, which is not only gauging from the quality perspective, but now being able to perform light assembly without adding labor, being able to do other things for your customer on a more repeatable basis, on a predictable basis. We were better. We were a better supplier because of this automation. And so this is the core opportunity for, I'd like to say, anybody on the line. I don't care what business you're in, what industry you're supporting, what you're trying to do. If you improve cost, quality, delivery, safety, you can add more value to your customer to make you more important to that respective company. And you can start to attract a workforce that's not traditionally looking to come into your business, which we all deal with. I know, you know, we've seen a room of people before, young kids. We've all said, hey, who wants to get into manufacturing? And 40 hands stayed in their lap. And then we said, who wants to work with automation? 40 hands went up in the air. So that's the kind of world we're living in right now. We are now attracting young people. We're attracting a different kind of workforce than we have for a few years now. And so if you want to improve costs, you got to automate all this stuff. Automation directly impacts all of these points, and to the point where it changed the culture in our business. And we evolved from at the time, we were probably 12 million in sales, 12 million in sales in 06, with about 150 people, 160 people. Now we're over 50 million in sales, and we have roughly 190 people. And the whole thing of robots steal jobs is complete nonsense. Yeah, we've only added roughly 20, 30 jobs along the way, but things are completely different in our business because all that work would have stayed probably offshore. So it's really changed our world. Our quality is now, I think, in a previous slide, we're in the low, 2 to 5 ppm world, which is, we think, world class. Again, it's driven because of automation. So this is a traditional cell that we would say is an automated cell. It's a couple of different Morisikis. We're a Morisiki shop, DMG Mori primarily. We have a great relationship with those guys. This is it's a vertical mill on the left and a lathe on the right. It's a drive shaft housing that ends up at Toyota through an assembly process. But we take the casting, we load it into a drawer system, which is what you see in the middle, the flat panel. It's a multi-tiered drawer system, and this cell was put together by the RedRabbit guys. The robot will pull the drawer from the inside of the cell, load the first op, take it over to second op, hand it over to the second smaller robot on the bottom, and it takes it through an assembly process with loads of bushing, a bearing, a snap ring, a couple bolts, takes it through a quality check. Assuming that it passes that quality check, it's going to serialize and Julian date every single part, which this type of process is very difficult to do manually. And then there's also a drawer up on the top, which is an in-process quality check per shift, where the automated cell knows whether or not you're going to be up or down, or whether or not the quality department has actually performed the operation. Not to get into too many specifics, but the bottom line is this is a pretty routine cell. This is a very basic operation. And what we say is that a yellow robot on the floor where Fanuc represents a person, and it's a person three shifts a day. Or maybe it's only 2 shifts a day. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, to perform this task, you would need 2 people per shift over the course of a day, 5 days a week. That's 6 people a day. We're doing it for 1 person a day, or I'm sorry, 1 person a shift, but they're running 2 other cells just like it. So the amount of labor involved is a fraction of what we're used to. Our throughput is predictable. Every part is checked and Julian dated. It's a completely different culture. And as a result, we can pay that person, that operator, more because he or she is performing more on a variety of machines. This person runs 6 machines per shift. And this is a pretty basic environment. Go ahead. And that wasn't, and let me back up, that cell was running multiple part numbers. So this is a particular cell that was designed for this part. It came to the point where we weren't running three shifts a day. In fact, we were only running about half a week. So we actually broke into the automation, and we run manually as well on some other service opportunities, low volume opportunities, and then for the rest of the week, we run automated. So it completely defunks this myth that you have to be committed to that particular part to only run automation. It's not going to gather dust. This is on a little bit on the other side of the spectrum, incredibly sophisticated cell where it's five robots, 10 machines. It's a transmission part, automotive transmission component, incredibly sophisticated. This is a different animal that we would not have globally even been in the concept had it not been for automation. It's 1.5 to 2 operators per shift running 10 spindles, plus an automated deburring and wash station. The gauge process in this particular cell is an inline CMM. There's a ton of reporting throughout the cell. It's pretty sophisticated. We also have a 15 machine knuckle line that's new on the scene for us, and everything in between. So the moral of the story is we do the simple stuff and we do the complex stuff. The bottom line is we wouldn't have been in the game had it not been for automation, and that's really helped us. So this is our traditional sort of model over the years. If you look back from 03 to 07, it's the traditional model. Our revenue was increasing. We were across that $10 million barrier in 05, and our head count goes right along with it. So as we added equipment, we were adding heads, and a lot of them. It was in that 06, 07 timeframe we started to automate. In 09, everybody took a step back, of course, and our numbers followed with it. But that was also around the same time we were starting to add a lot more automated cells. And it's not a coincidence from that 2010 to 2014, 15 timeframe, we went up from 10 million to 35 million, but we barely added headcount. That's all due to automation. The drop from 14 to 16 was a drop in oil and gas, but we continued to march upward. And you can see now we're in 2019, we think we'll be closer to 60 million by 2020 than we are today. We're continuing to march up, and our head count has ticked up to about 190 folks. This is the bigger slide. Yeah, we barely added head count, but it changed our business. Our payroll doubled. So what that means, how that translates, it's the jobs are completely different. We went from having 75% of our workforce be machine operators. Today it's about 35%. Our average wage grew anywhere from 50% to 100%, depending on the position in the applications. We were adding positions that we never had before. Automation support people. For example, now we spun off RedRabbit. We developed our own internal automation team after years of doing it, and now we've spun those guys off, but we still have some automation support folks inside. It's not a coincidence. They're relatively young guys that know a lot more about this stuff than any of us that have any gray hair. But we're bringing those people into the business. And a lot of those positions are now support folks, program managers, salespeople, you name it. We don't need as many people on the floor that are jobs that we have a heck of a time filling because nobody wants those jobs on the surface. It's a great way to get into our business, but.
Matt, just to clarify,
sure.
Where was your head count in sheer numbers actually in 2007?
About 160, 170.
And today?
We're about 190.
So you've added 30 people.
Yeah, net we've added 30 people, but
the salaries they're making.
They're doubled. And so some of that is natural, of course. We've gotten bigger and better, but most of it's not. Most of it is that they're different positions now. And it's allowed us to attract a different caliber of person, which is probably the biggest thing. It's allowed us to attract young people into the business. It's still a challenge for us, don't get me wrong. It's a challenge for everybody when you're at 2 to 3% unemployment, but it's a different ballgame. It's just a different ballgame. And you're less reliant on people showing up every day. It minimizes all the impact of all that stuff. You know, if Jimmy comes in with a hangover, he's still going to make rate. It's amazing.
And your quality's not going to suffer.
Yeah, and where he's not going to miss a quality check because the quality check is going to go through the process. So again, are we perfect? Of course not. But it's really changed the game, and we are absolutely believers in it. We have no idea how anybody could operate any other way, but it's not just on the automotive side. That's what I have to stress to people, and when they walk through our facility, they see it. But go ahead and move on to the next one. So that kind of gets us to RedRabbit. So again, we spun off our internal integration team. We recognized we had a pretty talented group. We recognized that we had a story to tell. And as I was giving similar talks like this throughout the country, I was surprised at how much interest there were in this concept, and how many companies didn't know where to start and didn't know how to do it. And quite frankly, dealt with integration companies that didn't get it done, that really struggled because they were automation guys that would throw a robot on the floor and maybe kind of get them close to what they needed. But at the end of the day, it wasn't a turnkey, fully automated cell, meaning it didn't close the loop. There was no gauging involved, maybe light assembly, or they didn't even fully understand hydraulic fixtures and loading and unloading. And that's why Vickers developed our own internal automation team. We couldn't find a good integrator that understood what we did. And so we did it ourselves. RedRabbit's focus is that small to medium-sized company. Yeah, we work with big companies too, but we recognize there's a lot of companies out there that don't have internal integration teams that are machine tending needs, whether it be CNC machining, plastics, fab shops, foundries, you name it. Anything that is a pick and place environment from a manufacturing, keep it simple process, but make sure it's a robust process. That's what RedRabbit is, and that's where our guys came from. So we spun those guys off, and I was sick of answering the question, where do I start? Who do I talk to? I said, you're going to talk to us now. And so we carved off RedRabbit, and now we're doing our thing. So I'm going to hand the wheel over to Corey.
Thanks, Matt. And from the perspective of what RedRabbit means to the industry, it's an integration answer to all the questions. And the neat part about it is that when we went out and started knocking on doors and getting asked to come into different companies, I'm going to say it, job shops that said that they couldn't automate, that they didn't understand why anybody would think that a job shop could automate, we had a solution for them. And it's kind of interesting that in the majority of the sales calls that we make from a perspective of meeting and learning about customers, that I don't tell anyone, but I haven't went on an automation integration sales call yet. We've been actually sitting down in front of business owners and dealing with workforce issues, productivity issues, quality issues. It's just that there's a solution behind it that becomes automation. One of the interesting things when you're fortunate as I am to be able to then start getting in front of different companies, the small, medium, mid-sized companies, and start really looking at their process, that everyone thinks that, well, maybe we have some automation, maybe we got this figured out, and traditionally this is what we're seeing. If anyone can see the video, I'm not going to play the video, but everyone knows what happens here. Lucy and Ethel are automated, sort of. Traditionally, when you have an issue or you want to take a step towards growing, in the past it's been throw people at it, move the belt faster, and that doesn't work quite the way that it needs to work. And then you get the pushback from the industry that says, well, I don't make $1 million of anything. You don't have to. we still can automate. And part of the question that we've started to answer was that you need to look at it from a different perspective. You need to look at it from a modularity. You need to look at it from a redeployable effort. You need to look at it from the aspect of what it is that I have in my shop that has commonality. I met with a guy in Texas last week that said, I don't have anything in common. I do a bunch of different parts. There's a bunch of different part numbers, and merely looking at him and saying, oh, you're all lathes, right? Yes, yeah, we're all lathes. So everything's round. Yeah, everything's round. Now we have a commonality. Now we can start having a conversation around what automation looks like. And in the industry, it's a great time for the industry. All of us that are in the industry now are in there for a reason. It's not called advanced manufacturing anymore. It's called manufacturing, because if you're still there, you're advanced. You need to start thinking about things a little bit differently. We need to talk about what it means to be in the industry, and the manufacturing is growing. And manufacturing is going to continue to grow, and all the charts say that it's gonna continue to be on this upward scale. What is also true is that labor is going to be an issue always. The amount of people that are coming into the industry are falling off, so we need to get out in front of that. It's a cultural change. It's a cultural change from a manufacturer standpoint. Manufacturers really need to start looking at what they can do to be successful in the process. Vickers embraced this early on from a case study of looking at what it meant to be successful with these challenges early in the game. Unemployment is going to be an issue. It's not like Matt had said right now. Right now we're under a 4% unemployment. The people aren't available for throwing people at a project that you get, so you can take that work that is out there and available. You really start thinking about, how do I take on this next order, and how do I increase my sales, and how do I move my business forward with the fact that I'm now facing under 4% unemployment. Under 4% unemployment is churn. States like ours and big states in Texas and some of the big areas of growth, we're facing under 2%. So you got to really start thinking of things differently. And we missed the boat a little bit when we talk about workforce. We let the king of manufacturing, the king of technology, go out and sell milk. The dairy farmers are sharper than we are. They've seen it out front. We have to step back and say, how do we now get back in front of this? And we do it through automation. I mean, people were tuned into this guy for a long period of time. There's a different place where your workforce comes from when you talk about automation, when you talk about integration, when you talk about changing your culture. The Vickers Engineering story is that it's not the traditional machine shop anymore. It's now cell techs. It's now people that are accustomed to having that cell phone in their hand and having that right now information and having that technology. The Geek Squad group, they're one of the best employees from a RedRabbit perspective, providing service to Vickers Engineering, came from a Geek Squad employment and then moved into manufacturing, automation, integration, and what that looks like.
So do you do recruiting down at the Best Buy?
I hang out at Best Buy.
He's not kidding.
And I'm not kidding. Literally hired the Geek Squad guy.
Electrical engineer.
Their
training.
Their brains, the concept of what it is, multitask, control Visual Basic, HMI screens versus traditional G-code programming, what it means to manage cells, manage work, and be able to multitask. But did I just explain the millennials? Oh my God, there's a spot for this.
Well, and it cuts through the moms saying, hey, I want little Johnny to be in computers, not manufacturing. Really? Why don't you come out onto our floor? We'll show you some big computers. And that's really what it cuts through.
So is there a market? Absolutely. The machine sales that these heat charts are showing, and these are 2012 heat charts, the 16 and 17 heat charts are even stronger and brighter in color and enhancing in areas of the country. I mean, I don't know if most of our people on the line that there's this large blob over where all of us live. That means that the machine manufacturers are producing more, and the density of machines, CNC machines in those areas versus the robot usage, the culture is changing in our industry, and it doesn't have to be a high volume, high part, high automotive, high aerospace situation. It can work when it comes to the traditional job shop.
And what this slide tells me, because back in 06 when we started to automate, we're in Southwest Michigan going, man, how am I going to find people that's ever had robotic experience before? Well, this tells me there's a lot of folks out there that have robotic experience. That ship has sailed. That's gone.
So to Matt's point, you got to look at different places. You got to try and find those people that you can wrap the new culture and the new direction of your company around. We huge supporters of community colleges. Folks up in here in the Grand Rapids area are blessed with the Grand Rapids Community Colleges, a forward thinking of what it's going to take for private industry to continue down this path. Partnering with organizations like your LMCs, the community colleges, your Grand Valley State universities who are thinking differently along the lines of what the product needs to be in the industry that we're producing from an automation standpoint. I don't know if anybody on the line has ever been involved in this, but the FIRST Robotics, the entire workforce that you're looking for is at one of these competitions. It's not that hard to show up there from a private industry perspective and find the future of your workforce being showcased in one location that will support the cultural change that it will take to move your company from traditional manufacturing and machining to automation. That traditionally scares people. How do I get from here to there? You just heard Matt say that it was the scariest thing for taking the plunge and starting to automate and starting to think cellular and start moving an integration process of what people were going to do to this. We have a group of young people that are extremely talented and understand this already. We just need to figure out, you create a culture, you create a space for them to be successful. Whenever you have a presentation that has the exact same slide in it twice, that's when you're supposed to take notes. How do I survive and advance and become more profitable from the perspective?
This is about March Madness.
This is about March Madness right here. There are a few questions that I'm asked every single time my team comes into a company that are similar to the folks on the line right now. What am I here for? I'm not here to automate. I'm not here to integrate. I'm here to improve cost. I'm here to improve quality. I'm here to improve delivery, safety, value add, and figure out the workforce problem. How do I do that? I automate, 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 automate. It's a simple.
There you go.
Kind of one of the things that we're just going to I'll run through these, but the traditional infrastructure that Matt showed you from where Vickers got started, there's a lot of cost involved in it, and that is one of the questions that people say, oh, I can't afford or I don't. How do I invest in this infrastructure where it potentially has no value when things change? From an integrator's perspective, an integrator that comes from manufacturers, what we tasked with was to be able to create something that had some redeployable, that had module capability, that had the ability to change with a job shop, that had the ability to change with a market, that had ebbs and flows and ups and downs. We created this RR unit essentially for Vickers that was in an oil and gas industry that was up 1 minute and down the next minute and up the minute next and down. But the initial infrastructural capital investment to automation was expensive based on those ebbs and flows. So create something that gives me flexibility, create something that gives me a module approach, gives me a redeployable. We treat this unit just like another piece of equipment. When the project changes, you retool it. When the flow through it increases or adds different projects and part numbers, you assign that, you program that, you tool that up for that. You don't throw it out.
Yeah, because a robot's easy to redeploy. It's all the other integration costs that surrounds the robot, the customization, the programming, the fencing, the conveyor. It's all that stuff that requires very custom engineering time and cost that's traditionally gone if you have to make a change, if you want to move and redeploy the assets somewhere else. And that's what Corey was referring to oil and gas. Some of our automated cells were gathering dust in the downturn a couple years ago. So they came up with this concept that you can pick this whole unit up with a forklift and move it. So within about a day, we could have access to those machines to completely do anything else, move the automation stand somewhere else, reprogram that in another cell, you name it. And it was a pretty novel concept, but now we're seeing it being used on a variety of scales, and we're cutting through that integration cost that you don't have to pay for it multiple times, you pay for it once.
I mean, and that kind of changes the game, right? In terms of financing and in terms of how it looks on your balance sheet, because all those other things that you were spending were just expense.
They were
This is capital.
We have
Not 100%.
we're developing a dealer network throughout the country where this is being treated like a machine, like a CNC machine, where people can just buy the unit and program it themselves, create the end effectors themselves, do whatever you want. The unit itself has all. I'm stealing your thunder.
No,
the unit itself
no.
I like to talk. The unit itself has a tremendous amount of application possibilities. You can put vision system on, you can put drawer systems, you can string them together, run a walking beam underneath and use them as an assembly line. But it's modular, it's scalable. You can pick it up and move it around, but it's an asset. It's an asset that you can put on eBay when you're done if you want to. Somebody's going to buy it. We buy it. Vickers would buy it. So it cuts through a lot of that fear. The robot is inverted, so the floor space is smaller. It's more compact. There's a lot going on there, and it's not just machining. It can be in a fab environment. It can be in a foundry environment where you're doing polishing and grinding. It's got a number of, it's a robot application, but you don't have that customized integration around it. It's standard integration.
It truly gives you the answer to the job shop question of, can I automate in a job shop? Yes, absolutely. We have a customer that we're working with that essentially has 7 different castings that are producing 40+ part numbers. And any of you out there that are in a job shop, that makes complete sense to you. And I guarantee you, if I sat down in front of you and say, let's automate, you're going to say, well, I've got 8 castings that produce 40 different part numbers I can automate. I'm going to tell you that we've been out and we've worked with customers that this is the solution. And from an integrator standpoint, having the ability to educate the culture of your environment to start thinking along those lines is the win for us in the industry. I've led into my own next slide.
Nice segue.
Many part numbers, high quantities of parts. That yes, it's job shop. Yes, job shops can do it. Job shops can be successful at it. It allows you for flexibility, allows you for change. It gives you the ability to value add. What do I do with the space? So we have an application. So you have a robot that's loading and unloading maybe 2 or 3 machines, and there's maybe long cycle times. So what am I going to do with that robot? What's the part doing beyond the robot or the machining? Like you've seen in the cell back that Matt showed at Vickers, there's assembly that takes place, there's inspection that takes place, there's deburring that takes place. All those applications are basically human touch processes that are put into a unit as a part of a cell that now becomes profitability, productivity, elimination of the day-to-day operational stuff that people don't want to do anymore. And now you train a guy to run this unit and pay them more money for the value of what they're doing here. It's a game changer.
All right, so we're about 40 minutes in, and we're going to keep going. But it's getting close to noon, so some people may drop off here. There's still about 90 on. And we'll do questions and answers. So if you have questions, ask them. We'll answer all of them until we're done. And there'll be a rebroadcast of this as well as it'll be available online. So let's keep going. Good stuff.
We're, from a perspective of, you say, oh, I'm not a machine shop. I have other applications. I have other machines that are my primary function. The redeployable, the module ease to integration, it comes from having everything basically encased in a unit that has the ability to move. This piece of equipment here is serving as a machine tender for other areas. To be quite honest with you, that this unit right here is a unit that was produced. The concept of the RR unit is machining it's a porta-john frame.
The door.
It's the door to a porta potty. So if you're out there saying I do something totally different than machining, this isn't an application for me. That's why I put this slide in here. There's increased production, the workforce introduction. They traditionally, this customer spent about 15 minutes to produce this product to the point where it moves on to the next step. Through the automation of this process, it's done now in 2 minutes. The key here is that it's ease of training for the operation. The HDMI panel that you see up on the left-hand side is very visual basic. It's very user-friendly. It's very interfaceable. The operator essentially has a step-by-step process to teach them how to continue this moving forward. It's the whole copy machine concept. If your copy machine quits working on you, a screen pops up and says there's a jam. Take drawer number A down, pull lever D, move the unit, boom, 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 back together, you're up and running. Very, very user-friendly, very, very, very interfaceable from an operator standpoint, and increased production for this. Now, this customer, we originally started talking to them about the investment. We sold this unit to them on the basis of them being able to sell the additional capabilities that they would have. They were producing something in 15 minutes. Now they're producing in 2 minutes. What are we going to do with that additional time that we have? We can go out and sell the additional product that we can produce, and that has increased their sales. Areas of focus all the time. We talked about this over and over again. Return on investment is essentially focusing on workforce safety, quality, and the ability to redeploy your asset. The RR unit asset becomes a purchased item that you can depreciate over a year. It's nothing different than buying a brand new CNC machine. I want to show this slide because the module.
I want to stop right there. That's critical. This is an asset. You can depreciate it in year one. Okay, we're to the point where we can get these financed. Fanuc Robotics is in the financing now to help. Aggressive banks like Key Banks and others are in the business of financing automation, which isn't always easy because traditionally there's not an asset there to actually collateralize. It was basically a consulting fee to come in and help automate. So there are things like that happening in the industry very quickly that is becoming accessible to us little guys. And so that's a big deal in the decision-making process.
Do the banks get it? I mean, you mentioned Key Bank, they're a huge bank in Cleveland, right?
They're getting it.
They're getting it.
There's some are already there, some aren't. But if you have a bank that doesn't get it, we can hook you up with one that does. So,
or we hope that there are bankers on the line that are also interested in maintaining a relationship with their customers that want to grow in this fashion, and start the education process of, if your customer isn't thinking about this now and isn't moving in the direction of automation and integration, they won't be a customer in 5 years because the relevancy of them to the market is not going to be the same. So bankers all day long start educating yourself about what it takes to be successful in the changing manufacturing world.
I mean, and people ask us, why do you guys share so much of this? I mean, to us, it's all tides rise every boat, or whatever that.
A rising tide.
Whatever that dumb line is. Hey, I mean, manufacturing is growing here, and there's an opportunity. And as CNC opportunities, I mean, we keep referring to CNCs, any opportunities, whether it's in a foundry, whether it's, you name it, a number of our customers aren't CNC guys. This stuff matters. So we want the bankers on board, because if they're going to finance a couple CNC machines, they aren't going to buy the CNC machines if they aren't automated. That's the direction everything is going. It's got to be in order to be competitive, in order to stay in the ball game. So we're trying to educate everybody that, hey, let's all get on the same page and get on board.
So shameless plug for our partner. One of the things that
Well, these guys get it.
And these guys get it. And part of the process of going down that is from an integrator standpoint. If I'm in the relationships business, I come in and we start building a relationship with a customer and start getting them convinced that they need to go down in this path. The FANUC team of authorized systems integrators has a concept that meets that philosophy. So when we're committing a customer to a project, I want to have the hardware that's a part of that have the same philosophy and the same concept as we do, that it's a lifelong partnership. We're in the relationship service business, and that's truly the only thing that differentiates from anybody else, is what it means for the long haul, what it means to be there and educate, implement, support, service, and continue to support that process.
Because you got to be able to service your own. I mean, let me back up. We're there to help service the automation, just like any CNC dealer would. But along the way, you probably have people internally that have learned a lot about the CNC and maintain it yourself. That's exactly what's going to happen with the robotics, and it's going to happen pretty quick. And we're going to provide you even the resources with the FANUCs of the world to get that training. So that's part of the evolution within your shop.
From an integrator standpoint, in starting the journey, and then granted, call RedRabbit all day long, but maybe we're not the right integrator for you. But the key is finding that relationship that has somebody that sets down in front of you and starts to learn what it is that is going to make you successful. Our key for us and our success is that we come from manufacturing side. Right. We understand what the manufacturing of a product, the product at the end of the day that you deliver to your customer is truly the only thing that matters. How we get there and how that process changes is truly what makes it special to be able to move this project forward.
All right, we've got some questions online. If we can answer some of these while folks are still on. The first question we got from Steve was, is the webinar recorded? Yes, it is. And we'll send you a link, follow up with the rebroadcast. Claudio says, hello, thank you for the webinar. How do you remote access some of your machines for technical support?
So we actually, part of the process is being able to share all of the information from an Ethernet type process. So getting access to, we'll create a link on your network that gives a domain address, and that gives us access, because all of our specific integration process is built on a Visual Basic platform. So it's essentially these microcomputers that are managing the entire process, that are communicating to all of the machines and the integration unit that's in there. Gives us ease of access. We're servicing customers all over the United States and not necessarily getting in a plane and flying to them every time.
And FANUC has products that we can see live into their cell. FANUC can see into their cell. Obviously, the customer chooses to go this route for a very nominal fee, and there's a predictive maintenance aspect to that, that we can actually contact the customer and say, hey, you're going to have a problem in a month. Do you want us to service it? Do you guys want to service it? What do you want to do? But then from a true remote connectivity, when I say remote connectivity, if you have a problem and your own internal sales or service team can't solve it, we have a couple different options. It's not quite augmented reality, but it's the same premise of a visual connectivity where your service person is there connected with our team back in Southwest Michigan, and we can see exactly what they see, and we walk them through the fix. That's the quickest route to a fix. Obviously, if we're down the road, we're going to get in our car and we can be there in 2 seconds. But we have a customer in Utah. We have a customer down south. We have customers in Texas. So that's a little more challenging. But today's day and age with technology, we can be there in an instant and connected. So that's
Maybe an
important.
exoskeleton solution.
Yeah.
You're actually controlling them.
Oh, that's the Terminator world.
There you go.
Absolutely.
So a question from Jeff. Have you been adding 3D visual inspection to these units as well?
Absolutely. That's the value add of the product is what you do with it after the machining process takes place. And there, you can do anything. I mean, you can do a full CMM integration, layout, 3D visual inspections, part presence. I mean, it's
Simple go gauges. We do have bin picking vision that's specifically designed to hang from the top. That we currently, that's even in our show unit at IMTS. People saw that.
And
Yeah.
part of that is being able to just to learn what it is that you as a customer needs from a cell perspective and where the value add. And we've seen the biggest value add in deburring, assembly, and quality inspection after the robot is moving the part in and out of the machine.
Question from Tony. Have you taken any of this automation control information and tied it to larger building models to create immersive 3D tracking environment?
Not yet. That whole digital threading in the factory floor is coming for us, but we aren't there yet in terms of, and even Vickers isn't there yet. That's speaking from the Vickers side. We have a real-time cloud-based ERP system, but that digital threading, the full-blown IoT, that's really more on the customer, and we're there to help plug into that, and we're capable of plugging into that, but we're not going to consult and help people get there in that regard.
All right, I've got somebody here asking, how have Section 179 tax regulations affected equipment acquisitions?
Huge. So if you're Congressman Upman, thanks for the question. It's a massive deal. I mean, right? I mean, hey, we're in a capital intent business. The manufacturing is capital intent, and so it's a huge deal. And we had a flurry of activity in the fourth quarter last year because people wanted to get their section. They wanted to depreciate the stuff, and it makes sense. I mean, it's common sense. I mean, if you want to spur growth, don't make that a barrier. Make it an opportunity.
So whoever asked that question, I'll just give you the visual. Matt stood up in his chair and moved forward with passion.
It was from John, not Fred.
All
right, John.
All right,
Anyway,
John.
thank you, John. So, I mean, when it comes to ROI, what are people expecting from solutions like this? And are their expectations realistic at this point?
It sounds like a giant infomercial, but this is 90% of the time we surprise people with the ROI.
Right.
And in one of our young Notre Dame kids that are a heck of a lot smarter than we are, put together even a spreadsheet that walks you through the ROI. It's because people don't comprehend the true impact it has with throughput and labor reduction, and we can't quantify everything. Some of them are assumptions on your quality, throughput, and stuff like that. But the ROIs are pretty damn quick. In
how quick?
A year?
Under a year.
I mean, it's fast.
Yeah.
And again, that one cell that I showed at Vickers, when it would have been 2 people per shift, 6 people times that by 3. So, well, I'm not a math major. 18 people a day versus 3 people a day.
Right.
That alone, let alone the throughput savings and things like that, is tremendous.
And traditionally, when you start moving in that direction and you start putting a cellular automation concept into place, the first one is the hardest one to justify because it's a standalone.
Right.
The second one that's next to it that the same operator is running is then when the real ROI comes.
Right.
And then the third one that the same operator is running, and then that's when they talk about Jim Collins, when the flywheel starts turning, that's when the flywheel really starts turning. So if we can justify with a customer that you can have a return on your investment within a year on the first one, but then show the value even beyond that. That's when we talk about that we're there for the long haul, not just the first machine.
At Vickers, we're winning work because we're competitive, and if it wasn't for automation, we wouldn't win the work. So that's arguably a dumb business model on my part, because where our margins are competitive, but now with RedRabbit, we walk into companies, they're making money, but now they're looking to automate, and I'm going, oh my God, their margins are going to go through the roof because they don't need the automation to be profitable. They may need it for workforce and all these other things that they're struggling with, but if their margins are already there and then they're going to automate, that's when you get a pop. And so
that's when the banker starts to listen.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, another question. It's an interesting one. Is there such thing as an Industry 4.0 compliant type certification that your customers are asking you to be?
You know, that's an interesting question. No, but with blockchain and some other things that are coming, it wouldn't surprise me down the road. And what we struggle with, and what Justine and I were on, even at we were on a World Congress think tank a year ago in Detroit together. Part of the challenge is the big boys love to play around, and they've got the budgets to do all the IoT stuff and all the augmented reality stuff, and they love trickling it down to their supply chain. Well, who are the Vickers of the world? We can't afford to be on the cutting edge of that stuff. We have to wait until it's proven out and affordable before we can even take the leap.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that isn't coming, that it's a mandatory type thing, like all the ISO type regulations or TS regulations, but it makes sense. I mean, and so I do see it coming down the road that, and you got to break in at some point. Some people break in with awesome ERP systems and start to embrace IoT. Vickers did it with automation. And now we're just to the point where we have an awesome ERP system within the past year. And now we're trying to get more real-time information and digitally thread and things like that. A lot of that's down the road. You got to start somewhere. And so it doesn't matter where, but you got to start somewhere and become a master in it over time, and then go to the next one, That's been our experience.
Good. All right, we're coming up on an hour, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you both, gentlemen, for being here. Justine, thanks. A couple quick housekeeping items. There will be a recorded version of the webinar, including the slides, and it'll be a video, so it'll be posted here soon. Feedback is welcome, including be more timely, fix the technical aspects before. Thank you for being here. Thanks to Justine and her team at the Center West for partnering with us on this webinar series. Wanted to also let you know we'll be working with Justine and the team at the Right Place on 2 Industry 4.0 events for manufacturers this year. These are live events. First one is scheduled for May 21st in Grand Rapids, and they'll be talking about Industry 4.0 and cybersecurity issues, particularly for small and mid-sized manufacturers.
Big deal.
They'll have some experts on hand, as well as a couple of manufacturers that'll be sharing their journey as they adopted some new cybersecurity measures. Should be great events. We'll put a note about it on mibiz.com later today. So once again, thanks to the Center West. We always like to say it's really a hidden gem in the region for small and middle market manufacturing companies. They provide great technical support to manufacturers, help them develop effective business leaders, drive product innovation, promote operational excellence, grow and improve their profitability and cash flow. And here's the thing, every project starts with a no-cost assessment. So I'd encourage you to check them out on their website, www.thecenterwest.org. That concludes today's webinar. Thanks for your patience, and thanks for joining us online today. Have a great day.